Good morning, everybody. Welcome to this video on odes as a form of writing poetry. Let's discuss what exactly these odes are. An ode is a type of lyrical stanza and is of Greek origin. It is a serious and dignified composition with an exalted subject matter, often in the form of an address. It is an elaborately structured poem praising or glorifying an event or individual, describing nature intellectually as well as emotionally. Its expression is expected to be much more elaborate, impressive, and diffuse. It is often addressed directly to the describing object that it treats of. It has for its theme an important public event. Ode is Greek by origin, and a classical ode of Greek language is structured with three important parts. Number one, the strophe. Number two, the antistrophe. And number three, the epode. As Milton rightly says, strophe, antistrophe, and epode were a kind of stanza framed for the music then used with the chorus that they sang. In Greek language, strophe means turn and antistrophe means turn back. This makes sense when you consider the fact that during the strophe, choruses danced from right to left, and during the antistrophe, the choruses danced from left to right, the opposite. The epode or after song is the third and final section of the ode. In the epode, the chorus comes together in the center of the stage and delivers a final stanza. So in the strophe, the chorus moves from right to left and sings the song. The antistrophe is sung by the chorus by moving from left to right. And the epode, the chorus stands on the center of the stage and sings whatever lines are there in the epode. Based upon this, there are different types of odes. Essentially, they can be classified into the Pindaric ode and the Horatian ode, depending upon the writers of the ode. The very first variety is called as the Pindaric ode or the Dorian ode. The word Dorian arose from Dorian district and Dorian dialect in Greece. And because it is written by the Greek poet Pindar, the ode also is called as the Pindaric ode. Essentially choric, the Pindaric ode it was sung to the accompaniment of dance. It strictly followed the strophe, antistrophe, and epode, which could be repeated any number of times in the same ode. This type of Pindaric ode writing is, though difficult, was followed by the English poet Thomas Gray, as we could see in his odes titled The Progress of Poesy and The Bard. The second type of ode is called as the Horatian ode because the Roman poet Horace has written in this style. It is also called as the Lesbian ode because it is named after the island of Lesbos, which is present in Rome. It flourished and it was popularized in the island of Lesbos, and hence it is called as the Lesbian ode. As it was popularized by the writing of Horace, the Latin poet, it is also called as the Horatian ode. Horatian ode is much simpler in form and easier for the poets to imitate than the Greek ode or the Pindaric ode. It consists of short stanzas similar in length, and the treatment is direct, dignified, and the thought is clearly developed in a Horatian ode. The English odes mostly follow the Horatian pattern, as we could see in the example of Andrew Marvell's Upon Cromwell's Return from Ireland. This is a very beautiful ode that is written by Andrew Marvell of the 16th century, completely following the Horatian pattern of ode writing. The English odes, on the slide you could see Andrew Marvell's ode. Two stanzas are given there. These two stanzas actually describe Charles I, who was supposed to be executed while reaching the scaffold. It is describing Charles I while reaching the scaffold. Let me read it out for you. He nothing common, he here is Charles the First. He nothing common did or mean upon that memorable scene, but with his keener eye the axis edge did try, nor call the gods with vulgar spite to vindicate his helpless right, but bowed his comely head down as upon a bed. Very simple, very short, and very similar stanzas are being written by Andrew Marvell in this. So, normally the English odes follow the same pattern where the stanzas are short and similar. They observe perfect rhyme and rhythm within the ode writing, and the English writers convey the thought in plain, short, and straightforward fashion, where the style is very sober and stately. When we talk about the English ode writers, the English odes followed their own subject matter, style, treatment, and outlook, though they tried to imitate the Horatian style of writing. During the 16th century, we could find the earliest odes in English language using the word in its strict form. We could find Edmund Spenser writing epithalamion and prothalamion, beautiful odes expressing and celebrating the marriage. During the 17th century, the most important original odes in English were written by Abraham Cowley. These odes were written in iambic pentameter and had irregular line, length, patterns, and rhyme schemes. Cowley based the principle of his Pindarics on an apparent misunderstanding of Pindar's metrical practice, but nonetheless, others also widely used and imitated his style, as we could see in John Dryden. So, during the 17th century, Abraham Cowley and John Dryden are the two important ode writers. Ode writing, as is the case with the other styles of poetry or other forms of poetry, is not very commonly seen in the 18th century. The entire 18th century had the expression of satire and irony. So, ode writers are comparatively nil in the 18th century. During the 19th century, we could observe a number of romantic writers reviving the style of ode writing. The notable among them are number 1, William Wordsworth, number 2, Samuel Taylor Coleridge, number 3, John Keats, and number 4, Percy Bysshe Shelley. All the 4 great romantic writers beautifully wrote their poetry in the style of ode writing. William Wordsworth revived Cowley's Pindaric for one of his finest poems, The Intimations of Immortality Ode, which is very, very famous, of William Wordsworth, that he published in 1807. His contemporary and friend, Samuel Taylor Coleridge, has written an ode titled France, an Ode in 1798, based upon French Revolution. But he is very famous for another ode titled Dejection, an ode that he published in 1802. John Keats is the king of ode writing. He has written 11 odes. And the critics who criticize John Keats for writing poetry in his contemporary times, in the modern times, assure that if the entire poetry of John Keats is burnt away, excepting the odes, the 11 odes that he has written, John Keats is still famous an ode writer as he is. John Keats is still famous a poet as he is. This shows and establishes John Keats as a wonderful ode writer. The 5 great odes that he published in 1819 are Ode to a Nightingale, Ode on Melancholy, Ode on a Grecian Urn, Ode to Psyche, and Ode to Autumn. Apart from these, the minor odes that he has written, which account to 6 in number, also are equally famous and interesting. Percy Bysshe Shelley, who belongs to the second generation of romantic writers and a contemporary of John Keats, also wrote odes with regular stanza patterns. Shelley is very famous for writing Ode to the West Wind that he has written in 1819 and published in 1820. This ode is written in 14-line terza rima stanzas and is a major poetic form during his times. During the 20th century, we could find the war poet W.H. Auden writing only one ode titled as Ode. It is one of the most popular poems from his earlier career when he lived in London in opposition to people's ignorance over the reality of war. As with the ancient Greek odes, the English odes of the 17th and 18th centuries also were occasionally set to music. Composers like Purell, Handel, and Boyce all tried to set English odes to music. In our syllabus, three very famous romantic odes are prescribed to us: William Wordsworth's Ode to Duty, P.B. Shelley's Ode to the West Wind, and John Keats's Ode to Autumn. Let us start with William Wordsworth's Ode to Duty in the next video. Thank you very much for being a part of this video, which talked about the introduction to ode writing. Bye for now.